Creating these videos takes immense time and effort. All I ask in return is a simple like and your thoughtful comments. If you're enjoying my content, don't forget to subscribe and support the channel. If you'd like to go the extra mile, you can support me on Patreon too. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy. This is Adam Cross. Tonight I have something different to share, something unsettling. A few days ago, I came across a place that wasn't meant to be found. I was scavenging supplies near an old highway when I saw it, half buried in debris, overgrown with vines, a gate bearing the faded insignia of the U.S. military. The words Outpost Delta 17 were barely legible. It didn't look like much from the outside. Rusted fences, shattered windows, and the eerie silence that seems to follow abandoned places. But as I ventured inside, I realized this wasn't just another relic of the apocalypse. This place had secrets. The first room I entered looked like a hastily evacuated command center. Maps were pinned to the walls, showing quarantine zones and evacuation routes. But the maps were marked with strange symbols and annotations, codes I couldn't decipher, and locations that don't appear on any public records I've ever seen. On one of the desks, I found a journal. It was battered, the pages water-stained and torn, but still legible. The name on the cover read Lieutenant Charles Whitmore. Whitmore's entries began like any soldier's log, routine reports about troop movements and supply chains. But as I flipped through the pages, the tone shifted. Whitmore wrote about receiving orders to oversee something called Operation Red Horizon. He described it as a high-priority mission to develop a tactical bioweapon using experimental virology. At first, the operation seemed to be making progress. The virus was meant to target enemy combatants with precision, leaving infrastructure and non-combatants unharmed. But as the weeks went on, Whitmore's entries grew darker. One entry stood out. They keep telling us the risk is worth the reward, but I'm not so sure anymore. The latest tests, the test subjects aren't just dying, they're changing. They're stronger, faster, and harder to contain. The screams from the lower levels, they haunt me. How can anyone call this progress? Another entry, written in a rushed, shaky hand, sent chills down my spine. The containment breach happened so fast. Subject 23 escaped its restraints and attacked the staff. It bit Dr. Morgan before we could sedate it. Morgan changed within hours, not days, hours. Command ordered us to seal the lower levels and abandon the outpost. They left us here to die. The final entry was short but devastating. To anyone who finds this, we didn't know. We didn't know it would spread like this. We didn't know it would think. Forgive us. But that wasn't all I found at Delta 17. In one of the locked offices, I uncovered an old reel-to-reel recorder. It still worked, despite the years of dust and decay. The recordings, they're not easy to listen to. The first was a series of faint, shuffling footsteps echoing down an empty hallway. They didn't sound human, too heavy, too deliberate. The second recording was worse. It started with a low hum, like machinery in the distance. Then came the whispers. They were faint at first, barely audible. But as the recording continued, the voice grew clearer. "Help me," it said. It wasn't just a plea, it was layered with something else, something wrong. The voice didn't sound entirely human. It was distorted, almost as if it were mimicking the words rather than understanding them. The last recording was the worst of all. It began with static, followed by the sound of metal scraping against metal. Then, faintly in the background, came the screams. Not just one person, but many, echoing and overlapping, as if trapped in an endless loop of agony. I don't know what happened at Delta 17 after Whitmore's final entry, but I know this. The outpost was erased from official records for a reason. Whatever they were doing there, whatever they created, it wasn't meant for the battlefield. It wasn't meant for anything. As I left the outpost, I looked back one last time. For a moment, I thought I saw movement in one of the windows. A shadow, quick and fleeting. Maybe it was my imagination, or maybe Delta 17 isn't as abandoned as it seems. This is Adam Cross, signing off for now. If you're listening, stay far away from the places that aren't on the map. Some things are buried for a reason. This is Adam Cross, and tonight I'm stepping into dangerous territory. What I've uncovered is, well, it's not just horrifying, it's damning. It's the kind of truth that makes you question everything you thought you knew. A few weeks ago, I stumbled across fragments of intercepted military transmissions. At the time, they didn't make much sense. Random bursts of chatter, orders barked over crackling lines, and strange code words. But then I heard it again. Red Horizon. I've mentioned it before in passing. I thought it was just a designation for the initial containment efforts. But it's more than that. Buried within these transmissions was a file. A classified directive sent to high-ranking military officials during the early days of the outbreak. It detailed the Red Horizon Protocol. The goal was chillingly simple: to contain the infection at all costs. And when I say all costs, I mean exactly that. The protocol outlined a plan to deploy nuclear strikes on major population centers deemed unsalvageable. Cities like New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, and countless others. The idea was to eradicate the infected en masse, along with any uninfected survivors who might serve as vectors for the spread. But the directive wasn't purely about containment. There was an undertone, a carefully worded implication, that this wasn't just about stopping the infection. It was about stopping the truth from getting out. One transmission in particular haunts me. It was a recording of a conversation between two soldiers stationed near one of the target zones. I'll recount it as best I can. One soldier, his voice shaking, asked, "Do you really think this is necessary? There are still people in there." The other replied, "Doesn't matter. Command says it's the only way. We light it up, or we're next." There was a long pause, followed by the first soldier's voice again, quieter this time. "What did we even unleash?" Moments later, the transmission ended in chaos, shouting, gunfire, and then static. But the most damning piece wasn't the recordings. It was a memo attached to the protocol, addressed to someone high up in the chain of command. It read, "If this operation fails, the consequences are incalculable. Red Horizon is not just about containment. It's about ensuring plausible deniability. The public must never know the full extent of what we created." Let that sink in for a moment. What we created, this wasn't some naturally occurring virus. This wasn't an accident. This was manufactured, and the powers that be were willing to reduce entire cities to ash to hide that fact. I know what some of you might be thinking. Maybe the protocol was never carried out. Maybe cooler heads prevailed. I wish I could believe that. But then I intercepted another transmission. This one from a civilian ham radio operator who witnessed the aftermath of one of these strikes. He described a scene of utter devastation. Buildings reduced to rubble, skies choked with ash, and a deafening silence where life once thrived. But he also described something else, something crawling out of the ruins. The blast didn't kill them, he said. It just made them worse. Whatever this virus is, it doesn't die. It adapts, mutates. And now, thanks to Red Horizon, it's spreading faster than anyone could have imagined. So where does that leave us? Did humanity's leaders sacrifice millions of lives to contain the outbreak or to cover up their own sins? And if they were willing to go to such lengths, what else are they hiding? There's one more thing. The intercepted transmissions mentioned a place. Ground Zero, they called it. The epicenter of it all. If Red Horizon was meant to wipe the slate clean, then Ground Zero might hold the answers they were trying to bury. I don't know where it is yet, but I'll find it. I have to. If we're going to survive this nightmare, we need to know the truth. This is Adam Cross, signing off for now. If you're listening, don't trust the maps. Don't trust the orders. And above all, don't trust the people who claim to be saving us. This is Adam Cross, and I don't even know where to start tonight. Everything I've been telling you, the reports, the stories, the horrors we've all been living through, it's not enough anymore. What we've faced, what we thought we understood about the infection, is changing. I've received multiple reports from survivors in different parts of the country. And at first I thought it was just another rumor, just another desperate cry for help from people who'd lost their minds to the madness. But no, they're real. There's a new kind of undead out there, and they're faster. They're smarter, and they're hunting us. Survivors have started calling them hunters, and I wish I could say that was just a name, just some label slapped on a new breed of infected. But I've heard the stories. I've heard their voices. They're not like the others, not by a long shot. These hunters, they don't just stumble mindlessly through the streets like the zombies we're used to. No, these things, they're calculating. They move with purpose. They work in packs, they stalk their prey, and when they attack, I don't have words for it. Not real words. One of the reports I got came from a man in Chicago. He told me about an encounter he had with what he thought was a normal group of undead. But when they got closer, he realized something was wrong. The eyes were different, too aware, too focused. They were watching him, waiting for him to make a move. He didn't stand a chance. They got him. They tore into him with inhuman precision. And when they left him for dead, they didn't just leave him lying there. No, they marked him. One of the survivors who found him described the body as branded, like something had scratched deep into his chest, almost as if they were claiming their territory, sending a message. A claw-shaped mark torn into his flesh, still fresh and raw. I've heard this same story coming from survivors across the country. Bodies with claw marks, a signature almost, like they're leaving a trail for others to follow. These hunters don't just kill. They want us to know we're being hunted. And then there was the broadcast I intercepted from a small town out west. It was supposed to be a distress call, one last cry for help before they were overrun. I played it for you all a few days ago. It was a woman, breathless, frantic. She was talking about her family. The last part of her message, though, was the one that haunts me. She said, and I quote, "They're here. They're in the house. We thought it was just the dead. But they're different now. They're smart." And then right after that, the sound of pounding footsteps, scraping on the floor like claws. Then nothing but static. I tried to reach out to that broadcast source. I tried to contact the town. No response. But it's not just the survivors I've spoken to. There are others. Reports from military personnel stationed in what's left of the quarantine zones. They're calling these things the changed. They've seen them evolve, developing tactics, even manipulating their environment to trap survivors. These aren't mindless things anymore. They're becoming a force. And now I have to tell you something that's left me shaken to the core. I received a call a few hours ago from a survivor in North Carolina. He told me something I'm still trying to process. He said, "The hunters aren't just faster, they're learning, they're adapting." He swore to me that he saw one of them, a hunter. It actually paused, studying him through a broken window, waiting for him to make a move. He said it seemed like it knew what he was thinking. It knew when to strike, when to pull back, like it was planning. I've been through hell with these broadcasts, with the survivors, with the endless fights to stay alive. But what I'm hearing now, this is something else. The line between us and them is blurring, and I don't think it's going to stop. I don't know what's going to happen next. But I'll tell you this, if you're out there, if you're listening, you can't just run anymore. You can't hide. We're being hunted. This is Adam Cross signing off. This is Adam Cross, and tonight is different. I've been running from the truth for a long time, but I can't do it anymore. I know many of you have been asking about my past, where I come from, how I ended up doing this, all of it. But what I'm about to tell you, what I'm about to reveal, it's more than just a story. It's my confession. I worked for Gen X Dynamics. I was a communication specialist for their corporate operations. A small cog in a big machine. At the time, I was young, ambitious, naive. I didn't know what they were really doing behind closed doors. Hell, I barely knew what they were working on at all. But I was good at my job. I handled the internal communications. I sent memos, I arranged meetings, I managed the encrypted channels. My world was data, numbers, reports. Everything was sanitized, clean, everything. Until the moment I found the message that changed everything. I'm sure many of you have heard the name Gen X Dynamics by now. They were the corporation behind the experiments, the ones who funded the virus research. They were the ones who unleashed it, either by accident or on purpose. But it didn't start with the outbreak. It started with a series of classified operations under the guise of biomedical advancement. They were trying to develop something they called Project Genesis. They wanted to unlock the potential of human resilience, to enhance the immune system, to make us stronger. But they got greedy, and they were reckless. I know now that I was there, working in the middle of it, when it all started to go wrong. I heard whispers in the halls, caught glimpses of reports that never made it to the public eye. I should have spoken up. I should have known better. But I didn't. I turned a blind eye, because it was easy, because I was afraid, until I couldn't ignore it anymore. Tonight, I'm sharing something with you. Something I never thought I would. Something I should have exposed a long time ago. I've gotten my hands on a classified audio recording from a boardroom meeting at Gen X Dynamics. I've spent hours listening to this, piecing it together. It's from the days leading up to the outbreak, and it reveals something I never imagined. Listen closely. Project Genesis has been a failure. The virus, the test subjects, they're not behaving as expected. The infection spreads too quickly, the mutation rate is unpredictable. We can't risk public exposure. The government needs to be kept in the dark. We need to control the narrative. Shut down any leaks. I don't care what it takes. Are we sure it's ready? The containment protocols are failing, and there's no way we can hide what's happening in the test sites. If the virus breaks out of the facility, we'll have a disaster on our hands. I know what the data shows, but we don't have a choice. The board won't approve any more funding unless we report progress. We're too close to pulling out of the project. It's now or never. We need to cover up the early failures. Make it look like a natural outbreak. Deny everything. Make sure all sensitive materials are destroyed. We'll move the testing underground. No one gets access to the full report. The outbreak is an accident. Keep the government off our backs. We control the narrative. You heard that right. They knew, and they did nothing. Gen X Dynamics wasn't just trying to create a virus. They were trying to control it, to make it into something they could profit from. They sacrificed lives, human lives, to cover up their failure. And when the outbreak hit, they scrambled to make it look like an accident. But they planned this. They set it in motion, and then they ran, leaving the rest of us to drown in the chaos. I can't believe I was part of that system. I can't believe I let myself be a part of that. And I can't stand the fact that I stayed silent for so long, that I allowed it all to happen without speaking up. So here's the truth. I failed. I was complicit, and now I have to live with that. But if there's one thing I've learned in all this, it's that silence is as much a weapon as the virus itself. From now on, I won't be silent. I'll keep telling the story. I'll keep fighting. Because if we're gonna survive, we need to understand the truth. All of it. Stay safe out there. And don't forget, there's no such thing as safety anymore. Not from them. Not from us. This is Adam Cross, and tonight, I'm faced with a decision I never thought I'd have to make. A transmission came through a few hours ago. Something I wasn't expecting, but maybe I should have. It came from a survivor. A survivor claiming to have found a sanctuary. A safe zone, they called it. They said they were in a hidden location, away from the infected, away from the chaos. A place where food is still plentiful, where weapons are stockpiled, and where for the first time in God knows how long, there's a sense of security. Now, I know what you're thinking. Safe zones. We've all heard these stories. There was the one in New York, and then the one in Dallas, and then that small town in Colorado. But they were all lies. They were all traps. Each one of those places promised protection, safety, and a fresh start. But when survivors arrived, they found nothing but death. Empty, burned-out buildings, bodies, and worse. People who turned on each other for scraps of food. I won't let myself make that mistake again. Not after what we've all seen. Not after everything that's been lost. I've been through enough betrayal, enough false hope. This world, it doesn't give us mercy. It doesn't give us anything but hunger, fear, and loss. But tonight, I'm listening to this transmission and I hear something in their voices. Something that doesn't seem like a lie. The survivor's voice crackled over the static, but the words came through clearly. They said their sanctuary is deep within the mountains, far from major cities and the infected zones. The sounds in the background, wind whistling through what sounded like a metal structure, made it clear they weren't broadcasting from some underground bunker. It sounded like they were outside. And then they said something I can't get out of my head. They said, "We've got a cure here." Now, I know what you're thinking. You're probably wondering if they've just gone insane, if this is another delusion of someone who's been trapped too long in isolation. But I've heard this before. There were whispers, quiet, fleeting rumors about a group of doctors, scientists, people who might be working on something. Something that could stop this. Something that could cure us. The Red Horizon program tried to erase any trace of that, but I've heard bits and pieces. The survivor didn't say much about the cure, but they made one thing clear. They wanted to reach out to the world. They wanted to offer hope, and for the first time in months, I'm wondering if there could be something real to this. Maybe they really have found something. Or maybe I'm just a fool holding on to the last thread of hope, too scared to face the truth that we might be doomed to live and die in this hell. I'm not stupid. I know how dangerous this is. I know better than anyone how fragile hope can be in this world. But if there's a chance, a real chance, that there could be something out there, something more than just survival, maybe I have to take it. Maybe I need to go find it. I'm sitting here in this bunker. The walls are thick, and the air is stifling. The food's running low, and the power flickers every few hours. The radio's the only thing keeping me tethered to the outside world. But I can't stay here forever. I've already seen too many places crumble. I've heard too many broadcasts end in screams. I know I can't survive alone. Not forever. But then again, I also know what leaving this bunker means. If I go out there, I'm walking into the unknown. There's no guarantee that this safe zone is anything more than another trap. I've heard it all before. Come to us, we'll protect you. And then when you arrive, you find yourself locked in with the infected. Or worse, forced into a fight for your life with people who'd sell you out for a bottle of water. I can't go through that again. I can't. So here I am in the silence, wondering what to do. Do I stay, hide in this bunker until the world swallows me whole? Or do I take the risk, pack what I can, and head out toward this so-called sanctuary? I'm torn. I don't know what's worse. The terror of staying in place, watching everything rot around me, or the terror of leaving and never coming back. I've made a decision, but I'm not sharing it yet. Not until I'm certain, but what I can share with you tonight is a piece of advice. If you hear a broadcast like this one, promising sanctuary, promising hope, take it with caution. Don't let your desperation cloud your judgment. There are people out there who will say anything to lure you in. But if this is real, if this is a chance, then maybe it's worth taking. I'll keep you updated. I'll keep broadcasting until I can't anymore. But remember, out there in the darkness, hope can be both a light and a trap. And you never know which one you're walking into. This is Adam Cross, and tonight is different. There are times when I've wondered if I'd ever hear the name Elijah Carr again. It's been so long since I first spoke his name, since I first told you about the man who became Subject Zero, the one who, despite all odds, became the first zombie, and yet somehow was still human. You remember the stories I've shared, the experiments, the guilt, the virus spreading from his body like a plague. Elijah was the key, the starting point of everything we now face. He was the first, the one who held the potential cure, who carried the hope of mankind on his shoulders, but was doomed by his own sacrifice. I never thought I'd speak of him again, not after everything he went through, after everything we learned about him. But tonight I'm forced to face something I hoped would never be real. A survivor contacted me earlier. They claimed to have seen Elijah Carr, not as the monster we've come to know the infected to be. No, they said he was different. They said he was still partially human. He was walking through the ruins of what used to be a city. He was stumbling, like he was fighting to control his body, but the look in his eyes, they said, was unmistakable. It was Elijah. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's easy to dismiss this as just another story, another desperate attempt by someone to cling to hope. But these survivors, I've been listening to their stories for weeks now. They've seen things that don't line up with anything we've known about the infected. And this story, the one about Elijah, it fits somehow. It's been a long time since we lost contact with Elijah. The last time I saw him, he was trapped in a quarantine zone, and no one had any hope for him. We thought the infection had claimed him entirely, but now I'm not so sure. The survivor didn't say much about what they saw beyond that. They were terrified, understandably so, but they were certain it was him. And if that's true, it changes everything. I don't know what to believe anymore, but I do know this. If Elijah is still alive, if he's out there somewhere, maybe there's hope for us all. Maybe he is the key to ending this nightmare. Before I go any further, I need to share something with you. Something I found not too long ago. Something I've kept locked away in case it ever became relevant. It's a letter I found in a destroyed lab, tucked away beneath rubble in a location I dare not name. I've read it over and over again, but tonight, I'm sharing it with you. Elijah's words. If you're reading this, then I've failed. I'm sorry for everything. What I did, what I allowed to happen, I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I could fix it, but I see now that I was wrong. The virus, it wasn't just about survival. It was about control, and I was part of that. I was the first experiment. I was the first victim. I wasn't meant to be a hero. I wasn't meant to be the answer. But if you're still out there, if there's anyone left, please, do not follow my path. The virus, it's evolving. It's changing faster than anyone predicted. There's something inside me now, something that's fighting to take over, to consume everything. I'm not sure how much longer I can hold on, but if you can find me, if you can stop me before I lose control, maybe there's a chance. I don't know if I'll be able to stop the infection, but I know that I have to try. I'm sorry, I don't know what else to say, but if there's anyone left to save, this is all I can offer. Those were Elijah's last words, written with the kind of regret only someone who's seen the horrors of this virus firsthand could understand. And now I don't know what to think. Was he telling the truth? Is he still fighting to save humanity? Or has the infection finally consumed him completely? I want to believe in him. I want to believe that there's still a chance, that Elijah, the first to carry the virus, might be the one to reverse it. But I know better than anyone how easy it is to let hope cloud your judgment. And yet, when I listen to the survivor's story, when I hear them describe what they saw, there's something in their voice that makes me think Elijah might still be out there. Not as a monster, not as one of them, but as someone different. He's fighting the infection. Maybe that's the key. Maybe he's the answer we've all been looking for. But I can't do this alone. I'm torn. The world's a dark place, and I've spent months in this bunker, alone with my thoughts and my guilt. But if Elijah is out there, still alive, still fighting, maybe it's time for me to leave this place behind. Maybe it's time to find him. Or maybe it's time to make sure he doesn't become the thing we all fear. I'm going to leave this one up to you, my listeners. I'll continue broadcasting, but I need your help. If you've heard anything, seen anything, if Elijah is out there, tell me. We need to find him. And if it's too late, well, then we need to make sure his legacy isn't lost forever. Stay alive, keep moving, and remember, hope is a dangerous thing, but sometimes it's the only thing we have left. Taking a short break here, I'll be back shortly. This is Adam Cross. I wasn't sure if I'd ever have news worth sharing again, but tonight might be different. I've received something, a message, a cry for help. And it's unlike anything I've heard before. It started like most of them do. a garbled signal, faint and distorted. At first, I thought it was just another survivor pleading for food, shelter, or someone to talk to. But as I pieced the fragments together, I realized this was something else. Someone out there, a scientist, or what's left of one, is claiming they have the answer we've all been searching for. They say they can cure the virus. I know what you're thinking. I thought it too. We've heard it all before. Promises of sanctuaries, safe zones, miracle cures. Every time it's been a trap, a lie, or a desperate delusion. But this felt different. This wasn't a frantic plea for salvation. It was a calculated, deliberate message, recorded with precision and sent out on repeat. The voice, steady but strained, introduced themselves as Dr. Lillian Harper. She claimed to have worked on the virus from the beginning, back when it was just a theory. A collection of numbers and formulas scrawled on a whiteboard in a high-security lab. She was part of the team that started it all, and now she says she knows how to end it. Her message was short, but every word stuck with me. She didn't mince words or try to inspire hope. She spoke like someone who knew the weight of her sins and the urgency of her mission. To anyone listening, my name is Dr. Lillian Harper. I worked on the genesis of the virus that now consumes us. I won't waste time apologizing. My actions have condemned the world, and I will carry that burden until my last breath. But I can still fix this. If you can hear this, I need your help. I need to reach the Horizon Lab. The cure is there, locked away in a vault I helped design, but I can't do it alone. I don't have long. They've found me. If you're out there, if you can help, find me, guide me, please. Her voice faltered after that. I could hear something in the background, a faint thudding like someone, or something, was pounding against a door. She spoke again, quieter this time, as if she knew the end was near. I'll keep this broadcast running as long as I can. I'm transmitting from coordinates, and that's when it cut off. The signal dissolved into static, and all that remained was silence. I've replayed that message 100 times since I first heard it. I've analyzed every word, every sound, trying to decide if it's real or if it's just another cruel trick. But the way she spoke, it wasn't the voice of someone trying to deceive. It was the voice of someone who's lived through hell and knows she's running out of time. The Horizon Lab she mentioned, I've heard of it before. It was a black site facility buried somewhere in the Midwest where the virus was first developed. If what she says is true and the cure really is there, it could change everything. But reaching it won't be easy. The lab is deep in the infected zone, surrounded by what's left of the cities that fell early in the outbreak. And worse, it's not just the undead we have to worry about. The military knew about this place. If it still stands, I'm certain it's been fortified, or worse, booby-trapped to keep anyone from getting inside. But here's the thing. I can't ignore this. I can't sit here in my bunker, broadcasting into the void, and pretend this isn't worth risking everything for. If there's even the slightest chance that Dr. Harper is telling the truth, then I have to try. I can't do it alone, though. I'll need you. All of you out there who are still listening, who are still surviving, we have to work together. If you're close to the coordinates she mentioned, I'll broadcast them soon. I need you to find her, protect her, guide her to the Horizon Lab. I'll do everything I can from here, monitor frequencies, provide updates, and keep you informed. But you'll be the ones on the front lines. And there's one more thing. Before her message ended, I caught something faint in the background. It wasn't just the pounding on the door. There was a sound, low and guttural, almost inhuman. It reminded me of the hunters, the mutated infected I told you about before. If they've found her, if they're tracking her, then time is running out faster than we can imagine. I don't know if this is the right call. Maybe it's a fool's errand, chasing a ghost of hope in a world that's already burned to ashes. But what else do we have left? What else can we hold on to if not the chance to fix what's been broken? I'll keep you updated as I learn more. For now, stay safe, stay vigilant. And if you're near those coordinates, if you can help Dr. Harper, do it. This might be our only chance. And remember, if you're listening, stay alive. This is Adam Cross. I wish I had better news to share tonight. I've been struggling to put into words what I've seen, what I've heard. It feels like every time there's a flicker of hope, it's snuffed out, leaving behind nothing but darkness. Tonight's story is no different. Tonight I have to tell you about the fall of the last city. For weeks now I've been tracking transmissions from a place survivors called Haven. It wasn't like the so-called safe zones we've heard about before. This one seemed real, structured, fortified, self-sustaining. Survivors described it as a beacon of hope amidst the chaos. A city that stood strong, even as the world fell apart around it. But last night, Haven fell. It started with a single transmission, intercepted on an emergency frequency. A woman's voice, frantic, cutting through the static. She was shouting, pleading for help. Her words were disjointed, barely audible, but the terror in her voice was unmistakable. They're inside. The gates, they're open. Her screams were swallowed by a cacophony of sounds. The guttural moans of the undead, the panicked shouts of survivors, and the unmistakable roar of something larger, something unnatural. Over the next few hours, the transmissions from Haven became more fragmented, more desperate. Survivors tried to coordinate, tried to hold the line, but it was chaos. One voice would rise above the others, barking orders, only to be silenced moments later. The worst part wasn't the screams or the sound of gunfire. It was the silence that followed. At first, I thought it was just another outbreak, another horde overwhelming the defenses. But as I pieced together the fragments of what I'd heard, a chilling picture began to emerge. This wasn't a random attack. This wasn't the undead mindlessly breaching the walls. No, this was something else. Survivors who managed to broadcast in those final moments spoke of something leading the horde. Not just the hunters, those faster, smarter mutations I've warned you about before, but something worse. Something they called the Wardens. I don't know what they are. No one does. But the way survivors describe them, it's like they're not entirely mindless. They don't just hunt, they command. One man, his voice trembling with fear, managed to transmit a few words before his signal cut off. He said the gates didn't fall on their own. Someone opened them. They whispered to him, promised him something, and he let them in. I can't stop thinking about those words. Promised him something. What could the undead offer to make someone betray the last sanctuary of humanity? Or maybe it wasn't the undead at all. Maybe it was something else entirely. I managed to intercept one last recording before Haven went completely dark. It came from a patrol squad stationed at the outer perimeter. They were the last line of defense, watching as the city burned. The first voice was calm, measured, despite everything happening around them. Perimeter's breached. There's nothing we can do. Pull back to the fallback point. Then another voice, younger, panicked. We can't pull back. There are people still inside. We have to... It's too late, the first voice cut in. They're gone, all of them. Just focus on surviving. And then, a sound I'll never forget. It was a low, resonating growl, unlike anything I'd heard before. Not the mindless moaning of the undead, but something purposeful, deliberate. The younger voice spoke again, trembling. What is that? Do you see it? It's just standing there. The first voice whispered something I couldn't make out, and then the recording cut off. I've replayed it over and over, trying to understand what they saw. Whatever it wasn't human, and it wasn't alone. Haven is gone. Its walls are rubble, its people either dead or worse. And if a place like Haven, a fortress built to withstand the end of the world, could fall, then what chance does anyone else have? I know some of you out there were hoping to make it to Haven. I've heard your messages, your plans to travel there, your belief that it was the last safe place left. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There's nowhere left to go. I don't know what's happening to this world. I don't know what the wardens are or why they're different. I don't know why someone would open the gates or what whispered promises could convince them to doom an entire city. All I know is that every day it gets harder to hold on to hope. Every day the darkness seems to grow stronger and the light fades a little more. But we can't stop. We can't give in. If you're listening to this, if you're still alive, stay vigilant, stay strong, and most importantly, stay human. This is Adam Cross, and if you're hearing this, I don't know how much longer I'll be able to keep broadcasting. The air is heavy tonight. There's a chill that seeps into your bones, a kind of silence outside that feels more threatening than the chaos we've grown used to. I've been thinking a lot about humanity, about us, about what we've done, what we've lost, and somehow what we've managed to hold on to. It's strange, isn't it? Despite all of our mistakes, all the horrors we unleashed upon ourselves, there's still something in us that refuses to give up. Something that clings to the idea that we can be better. Earlier today, I intercepted a transmission from a survivor. She didn't say where she was or how she managed to send the message. Probably smart, considering everything out there. But her voice was steady, determined, and what she said stayed with me. She spoke about a small group she found, huddled together in the basement of an old church. She didn't know them, complete strangers, but she stayed. She protected them, and when the undead came, she fought, not for herself, but for them. She said, "We may have lost the world, but we haven't lost what makes us human." Not yet. Hearing her words, it gave me hope. Even now, even after everything, there are still people out there who refuse to let the darkness win. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing the right thing. Staying here hidden, broadcasting into the void. Does it even matter? Does anyone even hear me? But then I think about people like her, people who are still fighting, still protecting, still believing. And I realize that as long as there's even one person listening, it's worth it. It has to be. I don't have much time left. Something's changed. The air feels wrong. I've been hearing things outside, sounds I can't explain. It's them, the hunters. They found me. If you're listening to this, I want you to know that I tried. I tried to make a difference, to help you, to guide you. Maybe I failed, maybe I didn't, but that doesn't matter now. What matters is you. Keep fighting, keep surviving, and don't let the darkness because no matter how bad it gets, no matter how hopeless it feels, this isn't the end. The rest is up to you now. If you're hearing this, if you're still out there, don't give up. This is Adam Cross, signing off for now. Remember, as long as we're still alive, the story isn't over.